Does everything have a bright side to it? Of course. Doesn't always outweigh the negatives, but everything has a bright side to it. This makes happiness a choice. And here we say that the discipline of being happy is the ultimate discipline. With that said, welcome to the Ultimate Discipline Podcast, where we meet with people who are practitioners of this exact discipline, and we hear their cool stories of cultivating happiness through challenges in their life. I am your host, Sean Greenspan. Let's get to it. What is going on, everybody? It is a beautiful Tuesday morning here. We're actually recording this on Halloween. I don't know when you'll be listening to this. I am super excited to dive in with Forrest, who is the founder of Kineon Red Light Therapy. I love conversations like this because sometimes, yesterday I actually recorded Forrest with Chernow from Creatures of Habit. It's cool. I talk to him 3-4 times a week. We're doing a lot of work together. This is different. You and me have had a couple really strong connections, but we really haven't had the chance to drop in. And I'm really excited about that. For those of you that don't know Kineon or red light therapy in general, it's used to reduce pain and inflammation in certain parts of the body. Forrest can talk about it much better than me. And I'll tell you, Forrest, as much as I enjoy, as much as I just wanted you on the call from someone that I enjoyed speaking with, the passion you put behind talking about the 2 new products that you're about to come out with had me absolutely dumbfounded at. I've been studying a lot about mental health, about gut health, and I just thought this was the most unique solution that I've heard of. I hope it's the best. I can't say it yet because I haven't tried it, but it's definitely unique, and I love anyone that has this type of focus and dedication towards it. And it's also just a beautiful way of showing the world that, you can launch a for-profit company with an absolutely amazing mission. Those aren't exclusive. So without further ado, Forrest, I'd love to introduce you, give you a little background. You could tell us maybe the mission behind Kineon because it's a beautiful one, and the new products you guys come out with.
That's awesome. Really appreciate the kind introduction, and it's always great to talk to you. You ask such awesome questions, and I really have also been looking forward to diving into this with you. Um, to kind of give a little background on myself, and then on the company, and kind of how we came about with our mission and our concept for what we're doing. As you mentioned, as a for-profit company, we feel like that's the profit is not necessarily the driving factor for us. But my background has been in building electronics hardware companies. And really trying to focus them on systemic issues where we feel like by designing better products, by getting technology that's a little bit early to market out faster and in a better and more well thought out way, that we can actually have systemic level impacts. And so my last business before this was a LED lighting and controls business, and with that we were trying to reduce the amount of electrical load that people had to have in home, office, commercial, industrial settings, so that we could increase the adoption of renewable technologies from an energy generation standpoint. So photovoltaics, wind energy, et cetera. And we ended up selling that business to the second largest lighting company in the world at the time. And it was great. We did see, lots, millions of our products going out and being installed in different people's homes. And post that business was called Lumitron. Post Lumitron, I had been looking for something really systemic level that I could do and impact, but also that was going to help people more on a kind of physiological or health focus. And while I was looking for a product and a kind of a concept to build a company around this, my business partner was introduced to me, and he was also really looking for how to build a mission-driven company. And we spent our first two months together really talking about what that mission was going to be before we even started looking at product or technology. And so what we came down to is we really want to have a mission that holds us accountable and measurable. And so what's that's become defined as in the end is our mission is to increase the quality of life for the largest number of people we can in the most substantial and measurable way we can. And the technology we chose, photobiomodulation or light therapy, because what we found was that there were some very, very, very good outcomes in the medical literature, but primarily those were limited to really expensive clinical level devices. And so you're looking at really $15,000, $20,000 for the laser devices that were effective from a dosing standpoint when we started the company. And the downside for having this only in a clinical level treatment facility is that it's something. It's the reach, but B, it's not very convenient. You're going to see people use it, once a week or once a month if they're going in for, a knee injury or something like this. And this is a technology that can really help people on a daily basis. So if you're using it 4 or 5 times a week, then you're going to see orders of magnitude better outcomes than you do if you're using it in a clinic facility. So our product team took on the challenge to take a $20,000 device. We wanted to keep the lasers in it because the lasers actually allowed better penetration through to the internal tissue. But they cost more. They're harder to engineer around. The systems are more sophisticated. The regulatory boundaries are higher. The time to market was longer. But we tested these versus kind of LED only products, and the lasers were much more effective. So we made a commitment to designing this kind of product and trying to work it, engineering it into a sub $500 footprint that is both wearable, travel friendly, and battery driven. Because these other ones that existed at the time were big desktop units that had to plug into the wall and
Yeah, yeah.
that were just not very convenient. Yeah, it's weird though because you saw there were some good clinical level device companies, but nobody was making these in a way that somebody could use on a daily basis. And we felt like this is something that performs better than pharmaceuticals from a pain and inflammation reduction standpoint, and it doesn't have the side effects. Which really, at the time that we started the company, we knew of some of the side effects, but we spent a lot more time with medical researchers in this space. And there are some serious side effects, even for relatively what you think of as kind of gold standard pharmaceuticals like ibuprofen. These NSAIDs increase the risk of heart disease, 30 to 50% across the board, whether you're 6 or 60. That's a big increase. And so liver damage, stomach or gut endothelial tissue damage, cardiovascular tissue damage, ongoing degradation of the cartilage that's probably causing your pain in your joints in the first place. And this is the gold standard you're taking for it. It just doesn't seem right. And so what we've tried to do is offer a meaningful alternative to having to take pharmaceuticals. And it took a lot of design, it took a lot of regulatory. We've had to go through FDA and go through a number of different safety kind of qualifications and research studies and things like this. But in the end, we have created something that offers people a real meaningful alternative to pharmaceuticals.
Forrest, I gotta tell you how impactful that is in my life. There's a very, very fine line between, so this is my point of view. I'm not pushing this on anyone else. Between something I would take to make me healthier, something I would not take, right? Basically, it's, like how I'm looking at how invasive is it, how natural is it, right? Like, it's funny. I actually don't. There's not a single supplement I take every day or that I would consider I rely on. Nothing, and that's really important to me that I am the one empowering myself. But I think just because the industry we're in and the fact that I'm grateful enough to get a lot of them sent to me for free, I have a ton of supplements that I use at certain times. I was traveling a lot recently, so I was taking a lot of greens, a lot of like vitamin C, a lot of magnesium, make sure I get good sleep, just all sorts of stuff. Been working out a lot, taking a lot of electrolytes, stuff like that. And, ibuprofen or pain medicines are on the side that I actually haven't taken a single pain medicine since I was 15 years old. And I was getting out of, I had an appendectomy and like, it was just normal pain management. I didn't really think about it at that time. So the doctor gave it to me, I ate them. And I mean, we all know the side effects of them, and just because they're not a fast killer, and because they don't like directly relate to things, I don't think a lot of people like are like, oh, I should stop this. But it's just not like if we could find something with less of a trade-off, we have to. And
Yeah.
that's what you're doing. That's what really excites me. I also, just as someone who's in a service industry and I used to be at a product company, it's fun to hear you going through the product stuff, the regulatory stuff. I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, you just slap some lights in there and you're good to go. So let me ask just a quick question. You kind of hit on it. Um, I'm gonna challenge you to keep this short though, because this is I don't think I think people just probably want the high level answer.
Mhm.
Selfishly, I do. What makes the answers, or what makes the red lights that you use different from literally a red light bulb or whatever? Like, what is the sauce?
The key is the dosing. So we've spent tens of thousands of hours with our physiology and product teams in creating models for how light distributes, how photons distribute through tissue. And we know at what depth we need to get. So the way that we interact with the body is with photoacceptors, and different photoacceptors react from different wavelengths. We've chosen two wavelengths that trigger some very powerful signaling in the body, and we know at which depth of tissue these reservoirs of photoacceptors exist. And so we have to do some really powerful math to create a model that shows how we distribute that light most effectively to those photoacceptors, and then we baseline that mathematical model with real world testing. So we do nitric oxide testing, blood nitric oxide testing to see how that's increasing as we free up nitric oxide from hemoglobin, as an example. But there's other tests we do to kind of baseline our mathematical models for how light distributes in the body, and that's the kind of high level version of it. If we had a couple hours, we could go into the actual mathematics of it because it's very interesting. And it's but it is quite a dive to kind of go in on the technical side.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I remember I worked at a power tool company, and right, this was my first job out of school. Here's a little sales trick for people. It's like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm gonna know everything about every tool better than anyone, right? So someone would come down the aisle. Do you have a circular saw? Not only do I, but the RPMs on this are this, the teeth of the blade are this, and the guy's just like, does it like I'd go into like every details of a motor, and he'd be like, does it cut wood? And I'm like, yes, it cuts wood. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of times like we are so deep into it,
Yeah.
we don't communicate it to people. So I completely understand. The way I sold at the end of that job was, someone would say, I'm looking for a circular saw. I'd say, I have a circular saw that can allow you to spend more time with your kids. They're like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, you're using a circular saw to cut wood, right? You're framing something out. You're getting paid by the project, right? $10,000 to do this deck. What if you could do it in half the time, right? So then we'd start selling on the value instead of the engine that was in there, whatever.
No,
Oh
I
man.
love it. I think it's a great idea, and what it comes down to for us is recover faster. Like don't how we refer to it is don't take the batteries out of your fire alarm. If you've got a fire in your kitchen that's raging, the fire alarm beeping is not the problem. And with our bodies, the fire alarm beeping is that pain signal coming back to you and telling you that you have some kind of inflammation in your joints or inflammation and pain from something that you need to treat. And what we'd like to see is people, instead of taking the batteries out of the fire alarm, let's go put the fire out in the kitchen. Let's go reduce that inflammation and help you kind of have a tissue regrowth and balance that's much healthier for you longer term and allows you to stay in sports for a lot longer. We see a lot of guys kind of in my gray hairs and kind of pushing in their 40s and 50s who'd like to extend out the horizon of how long they can play sports. And if you're used to playing sports and you sprain your ankle and it takes you a week from your 20s to get back out of that and back into training, and suddenly it's taking a month or a month and a half in your 40s and 50s, you got to find some way to be able to recover faster. And this is a really powerful tool for being able to do that.
I'll tell you why I use it. I use it because it's easy. And that's super important. I understand what it is. I believe there's no drawbacks. That's the most important two things. I understand what it does, and there's no drawbacks. It's easy. I take a run, and I definitely don't do it every day, but a lot of times throw them around the knees after my run. I hit heavy shoulders, throw them around the shoulders. And the point is, I always believe, and if there's athletes out there that want to get better, um, it's not how hard you go in one workout. The winner for the year, is who has the most quality sessions throughout the year. And if you don't recover hard, you can't run hard every day. and it's just a fact. And if you think you can, come run with me. We'll lay it out on the line for a long couple hours and see if you could run hard the next day. Um, and yeah, I've just been looking for things, saunas, red light, cold plunge things. And honestly, as much as I love what you do, it actually is also just a reminder to focus on the other things. So if I was going to look at a pyramid, right, of like recovery and health, red light is important, right? Again, it's something I do regularly. It certainly is not the foundation. The foundation is sleep well, move your body, eat well, right?
Yes.
And what I love is like I always tell myself it's like Forrest. You and me are in a very funny world because everyone has a supplement for everything and a tool for everything, and I'm like an old school guy that like I don't like actually something that I take pride in is like never replacing my running shoes, which we know is stupid. But like, there's something about me. It's like I want to show up to a race with like the shittiest, oldest running shoes, and be like, I don't need that. And then we all get tricked into buying the new stuff or whatever. Or not tricked. We do because it
Yep.
makes sense. But when I do like red light therapy, what it triggers for my one, it's easy, like I was saying. But what I tell myself is if I'm going to take care of myself at this high level, um, I better be also exercising, sleeping right, meditating, eating right, my core four. So it's also a reminder for me to stay in the zone. And sometimes I do them together. Like I throw it on when I meditate, you know, um, and just it's like you're just killing two birds with one stone at that point.
I love it. I feel like this probably relates back to the happiness discipline. If you don't mind, kind of peeling back some of the onion on that for us, because I feel like that's that structure you just described. What you described is kind of that 80/20 Pareto principle of where do you get the best returns from. And I think one thing that you hammered on that I will before I kind of pass it back to you that I will kind of note is movement is so crucial. We actually work with a lot of our users who are 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, and you see things like osteoarthritis limiting their movements. And what will happen is, as soon as their movement is limited, you'll see that decline in movement just kind of fall off a cliff because the pain limits them in the first place and they stop moving. And then when you don't move, it creates more pain and inflammation and locks up the joints. And you just see this kind of downward spiral. And so the name of our company is Kineon, which is based from kineo or movement in Greek. And it's just so important that we see that because really that becomes almost a death spiral for people who are in their older ages. They're losing muscle through sarcopenia. They're losing kind of the ability to move effectively from a walking and just general movement standpoint. And so, if we can kind of snip that in the bud, nip that in the bud, and give them the ability to reduce that pain and get back into movement, it halts that downward spiral and kind of pushes them back up the other way. If that makes sense.
I I'm like almost at a loss for words. I got chills when you said that. Couple things that just like that makes me reflect on is, my girlfriend just tore her ACL. She's using the red light therapy. I think we were talking about this,
Hmm.
and I under I actually don't understand, but I have compassion towards her for not wanting to move her knee. It feels weak. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, and I'm very grateful that I don't know. But I can only imagine that everything you do besides just sit on a couch feels scary.
Yeah.
But like it's use it or lose it, and
Yes.
unfortunately, our body's so fucking good at adapting, you will lose it quick. People
Yes.
think that's like a bad thing. No, your body is amazing, and it's saying, "Oh, you don't need these functions. I'm gonna forget them. Get rid of the muscle." Like it's not efficient.
Yep.
It's not efficient to have that, and that just I don't know. It gets me really excited to hear you say that. Another thing, and this one's a little more of a sensitive topic for me, but I remember when my grandmother passed away. My grandfather was 94, and he was pretty sad. They were married for 58 years, and I told him that he doesn't need to like forget her or anything, but he can't let this cripple him mentally or physically because he sat around for about a week. And he was like, "Why do you say that?" And I was like, "At your age, every day you're not moving, you're making it 10 fucking times harder to move tomorrow. And guess what? When it's 10 times harder to move tomorrow, you're not going to move tomorrow. And in no joke, like, it's unfortunate his health declined pretty rapidly, which I know this is a common story after his wife passed away and my grandfather passed away 2 years later. And I'm not saying if he got up and walked, it would have changed that, even though that's what I think. But, if anyone's listening to this that's maybe not doing the habits they want to do, or at a traditional age where things decline. I say that with air quotes because I don't believe in any of that, right? Like, I'm going to be running my ultra marathons till I'm 100 and
Love
then
it.
some. But if you're there, like, I start to get really worked up just thinking about with my parents, 62 and 64. Um, like, specifically, like, my dad doesn't like move and stretch his body a lot. And, like, dude, he's like, every day I feel like I have less stability. I'm like, dude, you think every day, it's gonna happen every hour. Like, this is gonna get rapid and rapid. You just have to move the body. So anyone that's trying to get people to move the body and recover faster, because when you do move the body, or if you're lifting weights or whatever, you're tearing muscle fibers, like, it does take a toll. But it's actually signaling your brain. I think a lot of people know this. It's signaling your brain to build stronger, right? um, and it's funny and it's difficult because socially it's very difficult for us because people people project, right? um, here's a challenge for you and anyone listening. Find a study that shows running's bad for you. Okay. Running's bad for your knees. Sorry. Um, because any study that's been done with people that also strength train, wear good shoes,
Mhm.
have good form, don't overdo it, and know how to recover, know how to eat, hydrate, stuff that comes along with it, shows that running actually builds your knee strength, your tendon strength, everything. I played basketball. I have so many friends with knee problems that tell me, they're like, Sean, the way you run, you're going to be in a wheelchair when you're 40. I'm like, dude, the way you don't run, you're going to be in a wheelchair when you're 40. Like,
That's right.
it's like, I don't know. It's silly. It's silly.
Motion is lotion. If you got to keep those joints moving, and we see that more and more. And I think it's one of the reasons why you see there's some really kind of scary data points out there. 20 years ago, so just over actually right around 20 years ago, just over 20 years ago, the average age of adult onset for osteoarthritis um, was 67. Right now, it's 53. In 20 years, because of our reduction, so two big things. One is the diet side of things, because we're seeing more inflammation in the body just systemically. We're seeing joints have these kind of long-term chronic pain and chronic inflammation problems. But the biggest thing is movement, because of our and I'm not saying kind of the small I, you and I, but like our as a society. Our trend to move less and to kind of work more, to sit more, to travel more. You're in a car, you're in a plane, you're behind a desk. Um, that really impacts your joints and limits you and starts to put these kind of long-term chronic pathologies on the table 15 years younger. And that's in a 20-year time span. Our lives have changed so much that the onset for these kind of chronic pathologies is 15 years younger. It's crazy.
Yeah. Um, it brings me to think about sourcing food, actually. I see a
Mhm,
big parallel here. I've been really studying a guy named Dr. Zach Bush, as
mhm.
well as a guy who I had on my podcast, Scott Mack and McDonald. I call him Scotty Mack, who's a chef and a farmer. And the reason I say that is I think the problem for both these things is actually our perspective. So when let's think about food sourcing, but and then I can relate it to moving as well. So sourcing food, we need to source from small regenerative organic farms. We need to source water from springs. Very simple. You do that, you're eating locally, you're eating seasonally, you're reducing pesticides, all of that shit. I mean, forget the economy stimulation, which is awesome. Like, but just doing that solves basically everything. If you do all your shopping at a farm and get your water
Hmm.
from a spring. So to do that, it's not that hard. You spend 30 minutes, hour researching a farm or two, calling them, figuring out what they have. You go buy as much as you can, make it work. Guess what? These farms that serve like the highest quality of everything, you're cutting out the middleman. So you're getting stuff that's way higher quality than you would even get at a Whole Foods or Sprouts for less. It's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean,
And they get more for it because there's no middleman in there, so it's better for both sides.
yes.
We found the same thing. We have a ranch here in Mexico that does kind of grass-fed beef and beef organs, cow organs, and then almost everything here is smaller farms. The size of the farms in the U.S. is unusual in kind of how large it is relative to a lot of things you'll see in the rest of North America, and it's been great for us because in that way, you're also when you're buying from smaller farms, typically you're also buying more seasonally versus having something that's kind of grown that's forced to grow out of season just because of the market factors. And so, yeah, it seems to have kind of a more traditional method for eating built into it.
Right? Exactly. It's like it solves all of the problems. Like seriously,
Mhm.
find the right ones and go. And then a spring, get a couple glass 5 gallon jars, find a spring, fill it up, put in your car and go. That sounds like a lot of work, but you're talking about potentially the second most important thing to your health besides moving your body, what goes
Yes.
in your body, right? um you could potentially even more than sleep, like
Yes.
maybe it's like, and even if it's not, like who cares if it's first or third or fourth? It's like, I think sleep, mindfulness, moving, eating, drinking, right? So like our perspective is that if it's not Uber Eats or even going to the grocery store, it's way too hard. So
Yeah.
it's in the perspective of things, when in reality you should, like, unless you literally are starving, can't pay rent, can't have a food over your head, your number one priority should be figuring out how to go source this food. Like if you have to take time out of your workday, if you have to have no social life, like whatever you need to do to make this happen. And I think it's similar to moving the body, right?
Hmm.
um, I started this company in 2019. At the end of 2020, I realized I'm going to be standing up and moving on my calls, on my podcast. Sometimes I sit and stretch. And if anyone has such a problem with that they can't work with me, then it's really unfortunate, and
Yeah.
we won't be able to work together.
Yeah.
Um, and
No, I love
and
it.
and
So
same thing.
is this all part of the happiness discipline, or can you tell me a little bit more about that? I'd love to hear about what how you came up with the concept, and I'd love to get you introduced with these guys as well. I don't know if you noticed my shirt here, but
No,
we've got some friends who run a business called the Happiness Project, and for them, they left their corporate jobs and started doing something that meant more to them and brought more joy to their lives and to the people around them. And it sounds like it might be in a similar kind of wavelength and frequency of what you're doing.
heck yeah, heck yeah. I do not know about them. That is super cool. I just made a note to look into them. So it is kind of similar to habit discipline, and I'm like you. When I get going on
Yeah.
something I'm passionate about, man, that the happiness discipline is, it's really, I would say, a way of life. It is an approach to building sustainable peace. And it just comes down to the fact that these things that we want to do that make us happy, whether it's the law of attraction and manifestation, whether it's being in the moment, whether it's moving our body, eating, they require discipline, right? And discipline in and of itself is a practice that we need to focus on.
Mm.
One example is the way that lifting weights helps me with the law of attraction. So the law of attraction states what we think about expands, right? Um, and if you look further, it's what we feel emotionally is going to, like, we can attract our ideal future.
Yeah.
So the question is then, why don't we all just have $100 million fall in our lap? Well,
Yeah.
you need to think that, feel that clearly. You can't have any other goals that interfere with it, and you have to do it 100% of the time. So, Forrest, if what you're trying to manifest is $100 million, and you guys don't get the funding you want, you have a bad sales quarter, your head salesperson leaves, you have an issue with your product that cost you $100,000, and you have a bill at home, that all comes at you in the same hour. How in that moment can you feel rich and financially free, right? It takes a lot of faith, and it takes a lot of like mindfulness and discipline, right?
Yeah.
You need to say discipline, focus on the goal. So that's really what the happiness discipline is. It's my podcast, it's a book I'm writing. I will turn it into probably like a free course, maybe a paid course, I don't know, like maybe a free course with some like coaching behind it. Something that I don't know. I haven't seen many people think about it this way that I've came across yet. Um, and it's been fun to like chat with people under this umbrella on the podcast, and do research under this umbrella for the book. So um,
No, I love it. I think it's amazing though, and I think this is it also just puts a smile on my face because I feel like there's a there's something powerful about building habits, but discipline is the kind of foundation that you build habits on, in kind of my personal opinion. And if you're able to start building those habits based on that discipline and that focus that you have, the impacts. It's kind of like the hamster spinning the wheel. It takes a little while to get up to speed, but the discipline and the hard work is what pays off in the end.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like I was thinking about I played basketball this morning, and someone's like, "Damn, Sean, like, have you been playing a lot?" And it's funny. I thought I was playing pretty poorly, but I've been staying in really like I haven't practiced a lot, but I've been staying in a really good shape. And I was kind of thinking like, no matter how good you are, you have to be in shape to play basketball. If you have the best shot, but you're once you run down the court, once you're exhausted and you can't shoot with that good form, you then don't have a good shot. Or if you can't get open, you don't have a good shot. That's how I think about discipline. Is like it's it's like a prerequisite.
Yeah,
You know what I mean, for a lot of these things. Like your red light therapy doesn't work if people don't put it on.
that's right.
It doesn't
That's
work
right.
sitting on a shelf. And you know, I don't know. That's kind of where it started. Was it felt like it was like a universal esque thing.
No, I love it. I think it really does kind of give people the idea of that foundation, and pointing your foundation, the happiness discipline versus just a lot of people think of discipline as something that's difficult or like hard to do or so kind of so hard that it puts you out of your normal space. But if your discipline is focused on really what's in line with your values, then what you have is a foundation to go push towards that happiness. I think it's one of the things we try to do with my kids as well is we do small things on a daily basis where making a 1% change can make a huge outcome difference. So what we've been doing lately is we started at 10 burpees, and then we added one every day until we got up to 140. And then kind of at that point in time, it's starting to eat into their school prep. So we just said, look, we're going to take it back down to 100, but we're going to do 1 year worth of 100. And that's going to be our kind of habit that we get into that sets a foundation for them to get some energy out before school, that puts them in a better space from a learning standpoint, so they don't have the energy and be bouncing off the walls kind of like in an ADHD type kind of perspective. And I think there's small things that you can do like that, whether it's kind of physical training or mental or meditation or spiritual or however you approach it. Those discipline and habit pieces that you can put in place make a massive difference.
Yeah, absolutely. How old are your kids?
4 and 7, and actually the 7-year-old is turning 8 in about a week and a half now, so he's super excited about it.
That is so cool. That is like what it's all about. Seriously. I mean, like, I wonder how many like problems would be solved if every kid in the world did 100 burpees before school, right? Like, what type of problems would be solved?
We've seen the older one had some very strong kind of ADHD symptoms. or indicators. And for me, having had the same thing growing up, I really felt like a lot of that is energy management. And if you can give them the opportunity to go be in a green space, we take them out to the park to go do their burpees and play with the football, chase the dog around, get your burpees done, and get in a mind state for where you've kind of pushed some of that energy out. So if you do have to go sit at a desk and kind of do repetitive tasks from a memorization standpoint or from a just a general learning at school, at least you're in the right kind of frame of mind where you've had green space, you've had family time, you've had exercise, you've had time with the dog. Okay, now it's time to go kind of sit down and maybe be in a little bit more boring or kind of constrained environment.
You know what? Maybe I'm a 4 or 7 year old. Um, I tell my girlfriend almost every morning, um, I need to work out so hard. I'm excited to work.
Yes,
Like,
yes,
yes, like I like today I played basketball and I came back and like I'm on a kind of a work. I keep my workout plan pretty flexible so I can do things that make sense, right? Like
yeah,
from a pure muscle building standpoint, I probably should not have done like the push-ups and pull-ups I did this morning because I'm going to do chest and back after this call actually at the gym, and that's kind of like deteriorating. But that was the only thing I had accessible to me, and I wanted to get out more energy so I could feel focused at work. Like I need to drain the tank in the morning, so like
yeah,
I'm like so grateful to sit down or just stand here and just like work and not have to like work out. And then, what I try to do is I try to leave my afternoons open for deep work because as I'm starting to work, there's a point every afternoon I start to get itchy. And when I get
yes,
itchy, I want
yes,
to have the flexibility to just shut it down and I'll come,
yeah.
just come back later when I'm exhausted again.
Yeah, I tell you what, one thing that's been great for me in that same kind of space, because I feel like I'm similar in my outlook for it, is an Echo bike. We got an Echo air bike at the house, and you can do. I've been practicing for it. I do a few 50-calorie sprints during the day just for an exhaustion piece because it puts me back in my work state. But yeah, if you go on there, it takes somewhere between 30 seconds and a minute to do 50-second sprint, and it absolutely just drains the tank. And I pop off it, lay down for a second, and try to not die and get back in the world. But then once you're done with that, like it's like okay, let's hop back into work, and it really only takes a couple of minutes to get all of that done. It's been such an amazing tool.
You know, the Nike term "just do it" comes to mind. Like
Yeah,
sometimes, like my rule is if a meeting ends within less than 3 minutes of the next meeting, all I'm doing is going to meditate. So I'll
yeah,
log on. I'll keep my camera off and my thing off. I'll have my headphones in, so I'll hear when someone comes, and I just meditate. And it's like someone's like, you know, first of all, if you close your eyes and just breathe, 3 minutes feels like 30.
yes.
Um, but also, it's like if you spend 30 seconds thinking about if you're gonna do it, and then like getting I'm not meditating the perfect posture of breath.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, cool, log on. And I
Yes.
just try to shut down for a second.
Just do it. I love it. Yeah. That's
My
awesome. That's a
dad,
great idea.
are you a golfer by any chance?
I'm an okay golfer. My brother and my father are much better golfers than I am.
Who I was just about to say who isn't only an okay golfer, right? When I used to play golf, or when I used to play golf with my dad growing up, it was me and my brother playing with my dad. We'd go out on Saturday, and we had the potential to hold people up, right? Two little kids.
Yeah.
So he used to say, "Rush between shots." And hurry up and then take your time over the ball. He
Oh,
told me that my whole life. And that is something, that I've been trying to like emulate, my whole it's like the same thing. It's like if I have 3 minutes, like rush as fast as you can, like get logged on the meeting and just shut down and close your eyes for your meditation. Or like you have 5 minutes, like get over that bike as quick as you can. And then when you're there, you know, you can take your time. Like you said, what's going to take a minute? Like just lock in
yes.
and you just be there. Um, but that's kind of what that, reminded me a little bit
No, I
about.
love it. It's a great way of kind of it reminds me of the military version of that, which is hurry up and wait.
Yeah, yeah. Hurry up and wait. I love that. Um, Forrest, I don't want to, take too much of your time up today. I know you have a hard stop coming up. Do you think you could give everyone a quick overview of the two products that are coming out? I would love to hear that. I want to make sure we hit that.
Absolutely, yes. And I'm please pull the plug on me because I tend to go a little bit overboard on these, but it's a very exciting thing for us. Our first device was is the Move Plus Pro, which is for neuromuscular pain and inflammation, and has been really powerful in helping people kind of give an alternative to pharmaceuticals, NSAIDs, opioids, etc. Our next two products are for transcranial, for treating the brain, and are for treating the gut biome. And we're launching those two because they're synergistic. Come to find out that it's not even additive. It's not even like it's synergistic to where, two plus two is four. In this case, two plus two is 10. And so you're seeing, your gut creates for you dopamine. You see leaky gut kind of tightening up these junctions in the gut endothelial tissue, tightening up, reducing inflammation for people who have irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, a number of other different types of pathologies of the gut, balancing the FB ratio. Light can do so much for us from a gut standpoint, but you have this powerful connection, which is the vagal nerve, the vagus nerve between your organs and your brain. And so we see increases even when you're just treating your gut and your brain. You then have increases in things like neuroplasticity factors, like brain derived neurotropic factor, um, and a number of different healthy molecules that increase in your brain. So we're bringing those two out. I won't go too in depth on these, but being able to treat your brain and your gut together makes a massive quality of life change. And that's our mission as a company, is to be able to help people improve their quality of life. And we're going to be launching these in March to early April of 2024, and they are so exciting. We were going to launch kind of one of them, the gut product, this year, but because we've seen such amazing results with our beta tests with the pairing of these, we've pushed back the launch, and we're going to kind of pair those up and bring both of them to market to try to get people the best outcomes we can, and change their day-to-day lives.
That's what that's what really got me just stoked from the beginning, man. It really did. I don't know. More than anything, I think it's gonna bring awareness to the fact that like inflammation is the root cause of a lot of diseases, and the gut is the the place that gets attacked a lot. And I think just your product alone is going to help people also eat better, meditate more, move the body more. I think it's just going to increase awareness around these things. And that's what really, just excites me about your guys' journey.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for support about it, and for letting me kind of dive in on that a little bit. But you're right. There's two sides of that coin. The negative side is inflammation. And when you see inflammation locally, regionally, or systemically, you're really seeing some negative impacts from it. But what the big things you're seeing on the positive side is an ability to increase your metabolic function. And so when we're treating people for the gut or for the brain, you see metabolic dysfunction and you see metabolic impairment that are very highly correlated with things like depression, anxiety, dementia, cognitive decline. And being able to treat those things with a transcranial and this gut treatment that we're bringing to market, they're these are really nasty pathologies. I don't know if you've been around kind of major depressive disorder is just rough. Dementia in particular, though, we've seen a lot of this from different patients that we've worked with on our beta kind of launches and getting these products out for people to start using. And dementia is a really, really nasty pathology, not just for the individual user or patient, but for their whole family. You see personality changes, you see forgetfulness, you see some really difficult things that make it hard to kind of connect with that person as you have before then. And being able to offer a path out of this type of dementia, really for us, I wake up excited every day to get to work because I think what we're doing, we're in the middle of a paradigm shift for how people can treat and prevent and even diagnose. We're working on sensor technology in the near term that'll launch later next year, that allows us to diagnose a lot of this earlier in the kind of early phases of presentation of these different symptoms. And that means we can start treating them more effectively. So it's just a really powerful and exciting time to be alive, and a great space to be working in from a technology standpoint?
I am almost as excited to be a fly on the wall. Like, and hopefully, I can be more than that. I'll keep in touch with you and Bex and see how things are going. Um, but it really is exciting. It's just um, technology can be used for so much good. Um, and it's like this again. I look at like I already know what you guys are gonna do. It's gonna be a huge success, like in your own product. What I'm also stoked about is like I was saying, the other effects. I want someone to see this and say, "Damn, if that can happen, what if I can do this?" And they create a whole other product. Not even competing, just a whole other product solving a different problem because you've opened their eyes to how people can solve health problems. Um,
100%.
you
I
know,
love
and
it. Like, let's apply a technology in a way that's going to help people. And I think whether it's competitive or not, we kind of take the idea that this kind of technology, there's going to be enough growth in the market to be able to support different products, and it's good. It's nice. It's a more robust system if we have competitors. We kind of reach out to different people who make products in this space and try to cooperate with them because it's at the end of the day, it's not about we're not here to make billions of dollars. We're here to impact people's lives. And if somebody else is doing that in a way that we can learn from or they can learn from us, and we can synthesize these and make a better outcome for these patients or the users, that's what we're really here for.
uh, congrats on having a vision and bringing it to life because the happiness discipline, that's something like the book, at least in the coaching side, something I've been noodling with for 4 or 5 years, and um, I'm inspired by you to put more time and energy into that.
You're smashing
So
it, dude.
So
That's
I
awesome.
just I just appreciate you chasing your dream. Forrest, this is one of many conversations that we're gonna have. Oh, I gotta tell you, I was overseas in Italy and my girlfriend's like, we need to find a WeWork. And I'm like, no, I got the strategy. We need to find a hotel that serves
Yes,
brunch.
I love it.
That'll be our inside joke. But all
Yes,
right,
all right.
thank you so much for your time and your energy. I hope everyone enjoyed this and is feeling motivated after this episode. Of course, if you don't mind liking this and share it with just one person that you think is going to take something away from this. Forrest, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Sean.
Hey, thank you for watching today's episode. If you got something out of this, it would mean so much if you could just take a second and give us a rating on whatever platform you're watching it on. And it would mean so much to the world if you could just find one person that you think this message resonates with and you can share that with them. Thank you so much for your support. Looking forward to share the next episode with you.